What's up, my friends? Todd Falcone here, back for two lives already this morning, and it's not even, well, I guess it is 10 o'clock. I'm joined again here today by my good friend, Chris Widener. What's up, Chris?
I'm joining you from the future. Where I am, it's 1 o'clock.
Oh, that's you got the time
Well,
machine.
the good news is you have at least 3 hours left in your life.
You're going to be able to relax sooner than I am. So, anyhow, Chris and I did a live this last week talking about the money side of the speaker business. We want to come here today and just talk a little bit, just at a little different angle. I think both Chris and I are in agreement that regardless of what you do, whether you're a financial planner, wealth manager, insurance agent, real estate owner, network marketer, any kind of entrepreneur, honestly, I could, pretty much any career. I mean, even a car sales guy or girl, right? You should be able to speak and be able to be comfortable speaking from the platform. So we want to talk to you guys a little bit about that today, and not even like saying, hey, go become a speaker and that you're going to shift careers. I think just having the ability to do it. And Chris, before we get into this, I remember years ago, I was living in Monterey, California. It was after my first 2 years of, quite frankly, failing in network marketing financially. And I took a job at my family's radio station selling advertising. And it was a sales job. I was out there hustling, selling ads, spots on the radio. And I remember I had this group of managers from Long's Drugstore, which is this chain of drugstores. And I had to go pitch these guys. It was like 10 dudes in a room at a boardroom table. I had no stage experience. I had no training. I'm just going in there and trying to sell these guys. And looking back, if I had, some professional advice prior to me going in there, I still closed the deal, but I wouldn't have been going in there like my palms were sweating. My mouth was dry. I was scared to death. So, that's kind of where we're going to go today with you guys. Cause being able to speak is a beautiful thing. So Chris, let's chat. What do you think?
Well, I think it's the number one skill set that people need to have is the ability to communicate, because you have to be able to get your ideas across to other people, whether you're selling a widget, you're selling a house, you're selling, whatever you're selling. Your ability to have a great marriage depends on your ability to communicate clearly. Your ability to raise your children properly depends on your ability to communicate with some clarity and in ways that the receiver wants to receive. So I absolutely believe that, number one, everybody should learn how to communicate better. It's why I love places like Toastmasters. Toastmasters, I don't think anybody says, I'm going to go become a professional speaker, let me join Toastmasters. But it is a way for them to be able to kind of get some skill set in it, right? And then they take it back to their workplace. This is going to be like Toastmasters only on steroids, because a lot of times in Toastmasters, you have people that have never really given a professional speech. They don't really know what they're doing. They kind of are by the book. It's the kind of the downside of Toastmasters. There's by the book, right? But here you have two people who've given between them 6,000 speeches and, that kind of thing. The second thing that I would say is that I really believe that almost all professionals should have a book and be able to speak. And it positions you as an authority. People naturally think if you have a book that you must be an authority, or if you are the one who's asked to show up and talk to the Rotary Club, you must be an authority. If you're asked to show up at the Rotary Club and you have a book, people are automatically going to position you in their own minds as an authority. So a real estate agent, you should have a book. How to make an extra $30,000 on your house sales, or when you sell your house, or 7 things you need to know before you buy your first home, or whatever. Life insurance salesman, 6 reasons every family should have life insurance, or whatever. You get the point. An interior decorator should have a book. The 7 mistakes that people make when decorating their homes that make it look old and shabby. Whatever. These are the kinds of things that Todd and I are going to teach in the Masters of Influence, how to communicate clearly and how to position yourself as an authority. Maybe you're saying, I don't want to become a professional speaker and travel on the road. I love my job as a wealth manager. Perfect. We're going to teach you how to communicate more clearly and to position yourself as an authority. Because when somebody's looking for a wealth manager, are they going to go with the 6 other guys, or are they going to go with the guy who has the book? I mean, this guy literally wrote the book on how to invest. They're going to read it. They're going to go, I like this guy's philosophy.
Yeah, no doubt. And so we're going to talk about how do you write a book? So that's part of what we're going to discuss. But the other thing, like, you made me think, like, I've met a lot of people over the years that are really good in their careers, and then they find out that I'm a speaker, and they're like, "Oh, I could never do that." And I'm like, "Well, you should be doing it. You should be able to do it." And these are like experts in their categories. And even like a friend of mine who he's in the tech side of business, IT type stuff, but he still has to go present at the national conference or whatever. And he's come to me for advice on, hey, I got to go give this presentation. In fact, I've had a lot of people over the years who've got to go give a speech or be on stage. They're like, oh my gosh, I got 25 minutes. What the heck do I do? I need help. And, so I think regardless of whether you want to be a, paid speaker, being able to communicate, and honestly, just from I'm not making any promises here, but from a marriage saving standpoint, your ability to communicate with your spouse, like, I would say that's probably, and you can go Google it if you want, I don't know, but it's probably one of the top reasons people get divorced.
I was a pastor for 14 years. I can tell you how many couples sat in my office, and their number one problem was they don't know how to communicate with each other.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, wouldn't that be cool to just learn how to be a better communicator with your spouse, with your kids? I know a lot of people here follow me that are involved in network marketing. For you to be able to show up for your national conference and tell your story and not be freaking out in a panic over it. And that's really one of the things that, one of the greatest fears people have. I don't know exactly how does the phrase go? People fear speaking over death or something. I'm blowing that quote or whatever, but people often, they're so scared to do it that, they'll sometimes do anything they can to avoid it. And you don't want to be in that position where you're being, you've had some success in your network marketing business, for example, and now you're going and being invited to speak at your national conference, even for 5 minutes or 7 minutes or 10 minutes, some short time slot, and be total in a panic. You should be able to get up there and own it. Chris and I have, again, combined years of experience speaking on the platform, physical platforms, as well as what we've got here on video, the ability to really help you work through that and get rid of all the nerves and all the scaredy stuff that most people experience, be able to actually put together a presentation rather than, it's kind of like, Chris, I don't know how you feel about this, but you've written so many more books than me. So what's so funny to me is I had a book in my brain for like 2 years, and I kept starting it for 2 years and actually kind of never really started it because I looked at it as this big daunting thing. Like, I got to write this book. The moment for me in this example, the moment I looked at it like, oh, I'm just writing a training for network marketers, it flowed out of me. And it took me it took me 2 years to think about it and like 6 days to write it. So you're going to get a lot out of this Masters of Influence Speakers Academy. Again, Chris, what you want to talk a little bit about what we're going to cover in this thing?
Yeah, well, I got a couple thoughts sort of to piggyback on what you're saying. It's interesting to me when I see different kinds of people. Like, you meet somebody and they're kind of shy and reserved, and you might go, they probably might not be that great of a speaker. But some of the best speakers I know, it's almost awkward to talk to them off the stage. I have a very good dear friend of mine who is very reserved personally. You put him on a stage and put a mic in his hand, he is one of the best in the world, dynamic and engaging and funny and whatever, because he worked at it. But then I know some people who you're sitting across the table and they're funny and they laugh and and they're just good. And you're like, hey, this guy would be great on stage. You get him up there, clams up. He's terrified. He doesn't know what to do. And so there are people who are naturally gifted and they can do well, or there's people who are naturally gifted who don't do well. There's people who are not naturally gifted who don't do well, but there are also people who are not naturally gifted who can learn how to be really, really, really good on stage. And so wherever you might be, you need to learn and to grow. I'm naturally gifted. Like, from the time I was a kid, I was talking. My mom bought me a Mr. Microphone. Remember those, Todd? My
Oh
mom,
yeah, yeah.
one of the worst things my mother ever did for herself was buy me a Mr. Microphone. I remember where I was in the 5th grade. She bought me a Mr. Microphone. I started announcing her return from work every day. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to Charlotte Widener, home from work. She'd be like, God, can I please just come home? So no matter where you're at, no matter what your personal level of a feeling of your ability to communicate, we want to make you better. Don't say, oh, I'm shy and bashful, I can't do it. I know way too many people who are shy and bashful, who you put them on a stage and they are amazing. We can teach you how to do that. Don't just think because you're dynamic in your daily life that you can just jump on stage and give a speech, because there's certain things that you need to learn. But no, we're gonna do, when we're talking about what we're gonna teach, there's gonna be sort of 2 tracks. You have the business track, right? This is how to sell, how to negotiate, how to write your book, how to build courses, how to find leads, how to manage your website, how to manage your team, like the business side. Then we're going to have the speaking side, how to engage with your audience, how to be funny, how to move audiences, how to work your stagecraft. There's only been a very, very few people who've been famous speakers who stand behind a lectern for 45 minutes. One of them was one of my mentors, Jim Rohn. Like I always say, Jim Rohn's power move, you knew Jim was getting excited when he did this.
Yeah, it's like, so funny.
Holy cow. Jim took his glasses
off. He's got it down here, and he's got the journal in his hand. Yeah, I mean, that is definitely a Rohn move right there.
Most speakers have to learn a couple of different things. What actors call stage blocking, right? There's certain times you want to be in certain areas of the stage. You want your vocal tone and inflection to go up and down. You want to create a roller coaster of emotion. You want them to laugh sometimes. You want them to lean forward and listen intently sometimes. You want them to be, righteously angered sometimes. This is what keeps the brain engaged. You ever notice you have speakers and this is where they're at the whole time? Well, after 12 minutes, everybody's checked out, but it's the people who got you laughing, then they got you listening, then they got you weeping, then they got you, and you can build that into the structure of your speech and your presentation. So these are the things that we're also going to teach you about, is that stagecraft. I mean, I'm just sitting here, even as I'm talking, I'm thinking about just little things. Todd, you and I have both done big stage things where there's 10,000 plus. One of the things that people say, oh, I could never give a speech to 10,000 plus, I'd be so scared. Well, until you give a speech to 10,000 people, you probably don't know that in a crowd of 10,000 people, you're most likely only going to be able to see about 400 of them, because there is so much lighting on the stage that once you look up past the front rows, you got lights in your eyes. You can't see anybody else. I've given speeches in NBA arenas. I gave a speech in Barcelona in the arena where the Dream Team won the championship. When you got so many lights on you, you don't want to just look right here. You want to make sure that everybody's incorporated, but the lights are in your eyes. You can't see the people up there. But as a speaker, you still have to look up there so that they think that you're drawing them in. You're drawing them in. You're drawing them in, and so this is all stagecraft kind of stuff, from small little things to big things, working on all those things.
There's so much stuff that, you could probably get up there and wing it. I don't think winging it is ever a good strategy. If you go up there, you're fully prepared, you know how to move the audience, you know what you're going to say, or you have a semblance of an idea of what you're going to say, where you're going to, you mentioned the whole idea of like where you're looking. Like I've seen people get up there and they're like looking at the, 2 people in the front of the room, and everybody out here feels like they're not even being talked to. And it's like, you're looking at this very person. So there's a lot of little intricate things that you're not going to think about or prepare for if you're not being trained to do it. It's like making the assumption that you put somebody into any kind of occupation, you say, hey, go get it. But they don't know what to do. They're going to try to, it's like they're feeling their way through a dark room and tripping on furniture. So again, regardless of whether you want to make money as a speaker or at full-time side hustle, if you wanted to speak on the side. If you're a salesperson, a network marketer, I mean, I think any network marketer should, I think every network marketer that plans on being in network marketing should 100% be able to be comfortable speaking. Maybe you've got something in your life where you want to make an impact. You don't care about the money. Maybe you want to make a big impact. Well, you can't make a big impact if you don't know what the heck you're doing on the platform. So, again, Chris and I talked about this for a while. We put it together. It's coming up here in July. We are doing it as a virtual academy, which is great for you because it allows you to save a ton of money over what we're going to do when we do this as a live in-person event. No airfare, no hotels, dramatically decreased fee in terms of getting into this thing. And you're going to get everything that you need to get by participating in this. I put the link below. It's toddfalcone.com/speakers. That's where you want to go, toddfalcone.com/speakers. We start on July 10th. We will record all of the sessions. And so ideally you want to be there live, but if you miss it, you're going to be able to get everything that you need to get out of this.
And honestly, there's like 20 hours worth of bonuses, 20 or 30 hours worth of bonuses of other speakers. The speakers that we've brought in for the bonuses, the audios and the videos, have made $1 billion in the speaking industry.
Yeah.
Totally bonus. 30-minute presentation. Yeah.
I went through all of them and I literally listened to every single one of them. And there are nuggets. I mean, just that alone, we could charge a couple grand for.
Yeah.
Because you're literally getting legendary speakers that we're giving to you as bonuses. I got to thank Chris for that because he's the one that interviewed all these folks. So
yeah, it's great info from people. I'll just give you some of the, you don't know what you don't know. So for example, what kind of microphone should you use? We're going to tell you the differences. Do you know what microphone I like the least, Todd? Can you imagine what microphone of the 3 or 4 different variations I like the least?
With you, I would say it's probably the over-the-ear microphone.
Well, I don't like the over-the-ear one because it just looks weird, and I feel like Madonna, who sort of pioneered the whole over-the-ear thing, and I don't want to wear the bra that she did when she invented that in the 90s. But no, obviously the one that I really don't like is the stationary one on a lectern. Why?
Oh, yeah.
Because now I have to be at the lectern. The second worst one that I don't like is a handheld. Why? Because now I can only use this hand to make my gestures. Once I start to, I lose the ability to talk to anybody. Then you got the overhead, and then you have the lapel. Well, there's certain things about it. I actually prefer the lapel, even though there is a downside. It's probably not as good as the over-the-ear. The over-the-ear is probably the one that's going to always pick up because the microphone resides right here. Doesn't matter. But if you put a lapel on a suit and it's over here, when you turn like this, you're no longer talking into the microphone, right? So there's little things even that you just don't know until you sit down and think about them. These are the kinds of things we want you, whether you want to go become a professional speaker or you're just maybe you're a wealth manager and you're asked to speak to 20 people in a boardroom. Well, you don't want to just talk to one guy. You want to talk to everybody. You want to know how you're going to work and interact with your PowerPoints and your presentation. You want to know vocal intonation, how to tell stories, all those kinds of things. I think this is really one of a kind training that we've developed here, Todd, and I'm very proud of it. And I know you are too. And we are going to be doing some in-person stuff and probably out of the very first group of people that sign up, we're going to find some of you who are going to say, I really want to go do this as a career. Great. Join us in Bend, Oregon, or join us in Chattanooga, where I live. Let's spend a few days together. Let's really work on your stagecraft and make you as good as you can possibly be. But step one is this first training that you'll have access to forever because we're going to record it and you'll be able to go back in, watch it again and again, and learn from the best of the best.
Dude, it's so crazy. The more we talk about this and we do these lives, like you brought up like the microphone thing. How many times have you seen somebody who you can't even see my hand because it's like all the way down here and they're talking into the microphone, but it's like 2.5 feet from their mouth, or the other person who's eating the microphone. I watched a guy last year who is, big money earner in network marketing, and he's got the microphone up to his lips, like he's eating it, and he's like yelling. So even though the sound system was a high quality $1 million sound system, it was completely harshed out. It was like people were plugging their ears. He's yelling. There's one thing to be yelling, but you need to know, like, okay, where's the microphone going to be? If I'm going to increase my voice and I'm using a handheld, What do I do with that? What other things can you do with a handheld? I use a handheld for props sometimes. I might tap on the microphone. There's certain things that I might do there. I like you. I mean, I prefer to have hands free. But the other thing is, what happens when you walk into, and these are like the things that we're going to cover. Like you walk into a room, and you're on a wired microphone, and it's stuck on a podium, but you got to be prepared for that. I did a deal one time for a network marketing company. Get this, Chris. I walked in. I mean, we can sit here and tell tons of stories, I'm sure, about experiences that we've had, both good and bad. I walked in, and there was 250 people in this room, and they had like this miniature, like, what do you call it, karaoke machine. It was like, maybe it was about that tall. It was like 2.5 feet tall, and with a wired handheld mic and the cord was maybe just barely enough to get to my mouth, and it had a handle like a rolling suitcase. So I'm literally doing it. This is like ridiculous. I'm doing a training, dragging around the speaker. It's like another thing. Speaking of that, is if when you go do a presentation, when you go do a speech, what are the things that you're asking your host, that you're making sure that you have this, I did an event very recently, like within the last couple of months, and I walk into the room, and I like PowerPoint. Okay, so I have a PowerPoint, not because I need it, but so the audience can see the thing that I'm talking about, so they can take a few notes on that rather than it just coming out of my mouth. And so I have my PowerPoint. I'm doing a 2.5-hour training. There was no screen, but I got there early enough for them to rally a screen and a projector. So that's another little thing. Okay, when do you arrive? So we're not gonna, like, it is going to be like, I can tell you right now, whether you've done a speaker training or not, you're gonna leave that and go, oh my gosh, this is the most detailed, comprehensive speaking academy that I've ever done. Or even whether I've done one or not, like, I can't even imagine that it could be any better than this, because we are going to cover the business side. And like Chris said as well, we're going to cover the stagecraft side, all that stuff, and all the little crazy things that you don't even think about until it happens to you.
I was just sitting here thinking about the ability to control your voice. And let me give you an example. I mentioned earlier I used to be a pastor. I've probably performed 300 weddings. I remember there was a wedding at the Hollywood Schoolhouse up in Redmond, your old stomping grounds, the Hollywood Schoolhouse. You've probably been there up in Woodinville.
Yep.
And the bride's aunt was one of the lead singers of Manhattan Transfer, the old band, amazing singer. And so, you always have wedding singers. Well, this woman was maybe 3 feet from me. And I watched her sing, and I looked at her neck and her jaw. And I was thinking, while she was thinking, I was thinking to myself, this is the difference between the average wedding singer and the lead singer of the Manhattan Transfer. The way her jaw moved, the way her neck constricted and moved, she had perfect control over every single note. I also did a wedding once for a guy who's now very, very famous. He's won 3 Tony Awards. He's a big Broadway star. I did his brother's wedding, and about 3 notes into his wedding, I leaned forward to the groom and I said, "Can he sing in church tomorrow morning?" And I don't think he'll be up in time for church tomorrow morning. But all that to say, even some of that, you don't know how your tone and the way you speak has an effect. I'll give you an example. I ask people this all the time to prove my point. If Tony Robbins was 5'7" and talked like this, would he still be Tony Robbins? No, he would not be Tony Robbins. Part of what makes Tony is this absolutely commanding presence. I mean, I don't know if you've ever shook his hand, but the guy's got like a catcher's glove for a hand.
Yeah.
And so, granted, I'm not 6'7", never going to be 6'7". Most people aren't going to be 6'7". You don't have that big, raspy, gravelly voice. But there are things you can do to create a commanding presence, utilizing your voice, utilizing I don't know if you've ever seen the old SNL skit, Shy Ronnie. Have you ever seen the SNL skit? It's Rihanna and Adam Sandberg. They go in to rob a bank. And Rihanna's robbing a bank, and she's partnered with a guy named Shy Ronnie. And she tells Shy, "Okay, Shy Ronnie, tell him to get the," and he's like, they can't rob the bank because he's too shy to actually say, "Put the money in the bags," right? And there's a lot of people they just talk like this. And if we can teach them how to project and to utilize their voice, it's same person, same voice, learning a skill set, you're going to be a lot more effective even on a phone call, the ability to communicate, all these little nuances that you're never going to get from anybody except two people like Todd and me.
I'm ready to attend.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. So, okay, guys, we're going to, here's the thing. Get yourself registered. The website's in front of you, toddfalcone.com/speakers. You're going to dig it. It's going to be good for you. You're going to learn more than you can even possibly think that you're going to learn by probably tenfold. You have no idea. But we're bringing the goods, and we're bringing the goods on both ends. Like I said, the business side, the speaking side, and you're going to have it dialed. So get yourself registered. We'll see you on another live. Chris, brother, appreciate you, man.
Appreciate
you. You guys have a great day. We'll see you next time.